What's going on, guys? Episode 3 of the Angler's Den, discussing the Kissimmee Chain and the national championship and kind of everything went down. So let's break down day one of practice. So day one of practice, Dalton and I both kind of looked at the radar, and we looked. There's like not a lick of any rain or any storms whatsoever that were supposed to come through. And where did we go? We get to the boat ramp.
Yep.
Launch our boat.
Well, we were by the boat ramp. We weren't too far. And I look up, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like, Dylan, is it supposed to rain? He's like, no, there's no rain in the morning. There's like 10, maybe 15% chance of rain. We're like, okay, cool. We're like just fishing around. And the next thing you know, it's just a torrential downpour. We're like, oh, no. We're out there. It's like 50-something degrees, screaming wind. Like, we're freezing. It's so cold. Because we're soaked. It's not the warmest out in the wind. And we're like, oh my gosh.
I wish we had a video. Literally, Dalton used a life jacket to like keep himself warm, and I was just hiding underneath the center console.
Yeah. And then after about, 30 minutes of that, and it's still no end in sight, we called our coach, who was like an hour away at this pond that he thought was gas. I don't think it probably was, but it looked gas to him. So he went to it, and we called him, and he's like, guys, I'm an hour away. We're like, oh crap. And we're like well, just come to the boat ramp. Like, we're gonna need to change our clothes anyways. Just come to the boat ramp is what we told him.
Yeah.
And we sat out there for like another 10, 15 minutes. And Dylan's
like, at the dock or at the boat ramp?
We're just in the boat, like covering up.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, then you're like, oh, look at that dock over there. We gotta go over that dock over there. Let's go to the dock. I'm like, oh crap. It's going to be cold getting over there. So I idled the whole way over there. I'm like, I don't want to run. It's going to be too cold. We get to the dock, and Dylan jumps off, and he's holding the front of the boat. And then I put the power poles down, and I come up, and I'm standing on the dock, and I turn around, and I look at my motor, and there's just an oil slick. It probably killed so many. It's going to kill a beluga whale probably in the Atlantic Ocean. I dumped that much.
It was literally like, you look back, and it's just covered. The whole boat's covered in oil, and we're like,
these poor gators in Kissimmee are probably not doing so hot because of that. But it turns out that there was a little leak in my oil thing under the cowling, and we fixed that. And also over this break between, we had no tournaments, and to Kissimmee, I took my boat to Heise Marine to have like some maintenance done on it, just like the yearly stuff. And I had a lower unit seals that need replaced, and they also found like I had a oil pump problem, so they put a whole new system in there, and turns out as a little bit was from that leak, and then the rest was just from excess stuff.
Just maintenance.
Just the maintenance, and we're like, okay, cool. Nothing's wrong with the boat.
Yeah.
Everything's fine with the boat. Perfect. We go back to fishing, and I think we found a couple areas in Kissimmee that had fish. We just never saw the size we wanted to. He did lose like a 4-pounder, got like a 2 something on the same spot, but everything else was so random. Like, nothing just felt right to me, at least. Like, whenever we found fish, the watercolor wasn't right, but then when we found the watercolor that we were looking for, there was no fish or hydrilla or really anything.
Well, let's talk about kind of like our thought process going into like that day one of practice, and what were we kind of looking for.
My first thought process was, let's start out, and we started on a spot where there's a bay kind of off the main lake, and I thought it was going to be kind of a hydrilla flat, and it was the exact opposite. It was like a mud flat.
Yeah.
I can't even say it was shell. It was just like a bunch of goop and gunk on the bottom, and like, oh, this is poop. So we pushed up further and further into the bay, and just see if we can find something, and we never found anything there, and we just did want to target that. Not necessarily in the offshore hydrilla, like out in the middle of nowhere, but like not on the bank is what my thought process was. Like, we knew that there was going to be isolated pads around there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Semi-grass, reeds, whatever. But
I think the biggest thing was, especially like going into day one, is like anytime you go to Florida, you're expected to fish kind of like hydrilla, and especially like a lot of offshore grass. So when we got down to Kissimmee, we were like, all right, like like from like when we launched at like 7:30 or whatever it was to like sunrise to I think 11:30 is finally when we were able to actually start fishing because it was torrential downpour. We had some leaking oil, so like once we got that all taken care of, we really started practice out to say around noon. So like, and especially at the national championship, you only have a day and a half of practice. So like pretty much a quarter of our day just got wasted. So we were like, all right, we got to make something happen in this half day. So the biggest thing is we started looking around, and I mean, everywhere we looked, we couldn't find any hydrilla, which was weird because like, all the previous like stuff that we watched on YouTube, we watched old Bassmasters, we watched old MLF events out on the Kissimmee Chain.
Old fishing reports too. I mean, we're like, there's hydrilla all over the North Cove and whatnot, and
and
there was areas with it, but not everywhere.
Yeah, and like the areas that you did find with hydrilla, we couldn't.
It was like dead almost.
Yeah, it was like it wasn't crisp, it wasn't green, and it had this weird, like brownish greenish tint to it. Right away, we're like, okay, this is dead.
And the watercolor almost looked like Dardanelle watercolor too. It wasn't like that tea-colored water that you're looking for, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but
yeah. And I don't know, like we found this one little section in the North Cove where it was beautiful. It was like this like little back, like there was like you have your bank with like hyacinth mats, hydrilla, not hydrilla,
just pads and reeds. And
yep, exactly. And then it just kind of like opened up. And then on the backside, maybe like 300 yards out from the bank, you have like your Kissimmee grass. So like right up in that little pocket, it was, what would you say, like around anywhere between 3 to like 6 feet of water.
Yep.
And it was like hydrilla, like not the crispest hydrilla, but it was hydrilla. So
there was like a defined lane of it too.
Yeah.
Like there was a hard edge to that. Like it wasn't like it was hydrilla. There was like probably 100-yard stretch and then nothing.
Yeah.
And then
so before that section that we found, we didn't get a bite. So like right as soon as we rolled up to that spot, we were like, all right, let's check this out. Let's make a couple casts. This is like finally like we spent all day kind of looking for something like this. Let's check this out. And it's around like 2:00. Like it's pretty late in the day already. And I make one cast, boom, hook up, and there's like a college boat to the left of us, and then there's another boat like right in front of us, maybe like 150 yards, but they're not fishing the hydrilla. They're just like flipping the pads and stuff like that.
Just a couple old guys on the bank, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we thought they were college boats, so we were like, all right, let's keep this fish down. So I'm like keeping this fish really down. My rod tip's down, and it's on a trap, and this thing comes up, and I'm like, guaranteed 3 to 4 pounder. I'd say closer to 4. It was a good sized fish, but it was nothing like, man, it was a giant.
It started pointing us in a direction we wanted to go, though.
Yeah, so like we like pretty much had that fish pinned, and then the boat was like so close, I just kind of like thumbed it, kind of free spooled it until it came off, and I'm like, sweet, like whatever. Like that boat hopefully didn't see us doing that. We try to keep it really, really down low. And then my next cast, fire right down the same spot. Boom, got one. And I'm like, oh my God, 2 bites in a row? Like, are we on to something? And we finally got this fish in, and I'd probably say it was like a 2 3/4. It was just like a really fat quality, like, keeper on the Kissimmee Chain. So we're like, all right, sweet. So then we kind of like, me and Dalton start kind of breaking down that section a lot more. And I mean, it looked so good. Like, I was hooking around a trap. I threw around a chatterbait. What you threw around your glide bait?
Trap, glide bait. I threw around a free rig. I threw around, a chatter. Or no, I think I said chatterbait. But I don't know. I pulled up a couple other different traps just to try and see if like any trap outperformed the other one too. And I don't even know if we had another bite in that area.
We did not get a single bite, which was kind of like,
what in the world's going on?
Like back-to-back casts for like probably like closer to 7 pounds, and then just not a single bite. So then we were like maybe it was dumb luck. Let's like kind of reposition our boat in that same way and make that same cast. And we did that. It didn't get bit. And then we were like, all right, so this is probably just sheer luck. So let's keep moving forward. And we went to kind of like that northwest section of the lake, and we finally found some clear water. And then we were looking for some brush piles.
Found a
couple. And we were just scoping them. He was throwing a glide bait. I was throwing around a Carolina rig and a jerk bait through some of them brush piles.
And I mean, anyone who wants to catch some crappie, I can send you a couple dots. But,
yeah,
or a big old gar.
Yeah, giant gar. This thing comes screaming out of the brush pile. We're like,
We thought it was gonna be. At first I thought it was gonna be like a pretty darn good one. I don't know how good it was gonna be. I was like, oh gosh, this is like a 7-pounder. This is not gonna end well. It's gonna end well, but I don't need to catch a 7-pounder today. We need to save that for
tournament time.
Exactly. I'm like, oh no, and then he smoked it, and it was a gar.
Yeah, and then whatever we get it in, and then we were like, man, it's just not feeling right out here. Like we're not
lifeless.
Yeah, we're
Besides
not
crappie.
Yeah, we're just seeing like crappie on brush piles, and like especially like when we fish like Harris Channel Lakes, like we were able to like sometimes like some of on our hard bottom spots on Dora, we were able to see like the backs of fish kind of cruising through. Like you're not gonna see them really like well with live scope, but like if you just really pay attention to the bottom, and you'll just see these little humps rise off the bottom, like they're like glued to the bottom. They're moving. And if you like pay attention to like a Buddy Gross when he won, he pretty much caught all those fish on Harris using like Mega 360 because those fish were so keyed to the bottom that 360 was able to, spot these fish moving through through some of them hard bottom spots. And we were just not seeing that. So we were like, this is trash. Let's maybe get into some junk. Like we haven't really gotten into some junk. Let's check that out. And so, what did we?
We went hours without a bite then.
Yeah.
Like an hour or two without. I think maybe we had a couple bites. We didn't catch anything.
Yeah.
Then we pulled up on this one random spot and caught two keepers. I mean, they were keepers. I guess they were keepers, but not ones you want to weigh in.
Not even close.
I think that kind of wrapped up the day. Do we end? No.
We ended
the day on a kind of a little flurry, but.
It was just so weird.
Luck.
Yeah, it was just so weird because it was like...
And no big ones either.
The sun was setting. We were just he was hucking
a rocket gets shot into space too.
Yeah.
That was cool. I've never seen that before, but that was really cool.
And that was pretty much wrap up on day one, and we kind of got back to our Airbnb, and we kind of like sat down. We were like, all right, let's think about this. So like Kissimmee, there's not that much hydrilla, and the water's kind of stained in majority of the lake. Like, I'd say probably 80% of the lake had a weird stain to it. Like, the sections of the lake that you did find with clear water, it looked right. It just...
No hydrilla.
No hydrilla. So we were like, it made no sense why some sections...
Or any grass. There's, like, not even eelgrass or anything.
It really made no sense why some sections of the lake... Well, actually, majority of the lake is dirty. And then the sections that were really clear had, like, no grass. So we were like...
I'm almost guessing they sprayed it or something.
They had to have.
I mean, I have no other explanation as to why it dirtied up like that and no grass.
Yeah.
Like, it should have been one or the other, and it was both. So that's why I'm thinking they probably sprayed it.
So, and then, like, that night we sat down, we were like, all right, let's practice Toho. So I had a chance to fish Toho last year. And I thought I found a couple good areas. So, like, we were like, all right, sweet. We're going to check out a few of my areas and let's try to break down Toho a little bit more. Because there's definitely a winning bag in Toho. And then now looking back at it, what would you say? I'd say, like, 8 out of the top 10 caught him in Toho.
Something like that.
Like, majority.
The majority, yeah.
Yeah, majority caught him in Toho, which is kind of, like, different from last year's national championship. So we were like, all right, let's break this down. And then we heard some, I mean, it's dock talk, but we heard that, like, Toho there's a lot more grass. We're just thinking, a little bit more grass. We launched day 2 of practice, final day of practice, and we have to get off the water by 3:00. And we literally launched, and we're like, all right, let's go check this one, like, south end of Toho. And we're running, and then it's just... beep.
Yep. Overheated. And we're like, oh no. And the way where we sat down because it overheated, I mean, if you could walk across the hydrilla mat. Yeah. So it was like, oh no.
And the crappy thing is like pretty much most of the South Shore was topped out. Like, and the thing that like I'm kind of like wondering is like we saw quite a few boats even in the topped out stuff fishing, and it's like
you're almost relying on luck at that point then.
Yeah, and then it's also like, what are you really fishing holes in that, like little small holes, and are fish able to set up there and like really like can you really catch them effectively in those, like, when I'm talking about holes, like topped out field, and then like I'd say probably like picture like your 21-foot boat, picture I'd say like 6 of them, that's that hole. And it's like we fished a couple of those holes, and it's just you're not seeing any bait kind of swimming through some of that hydrilla, and you're not really seeing any bass kind of going through there, and you're not seeing bait. And I'm just kind of wondering what the hell were some of those teams doing down there. It looked strange, at least to me it did. But
it never felt right to me. Whenever we stopped in those holes, I'm like, this just doesn't really feel fishy.
No.
So we just kept on. We got the overheat done with, and kept on going. And we went back into that back area and caught a dogfish and a 12-incher.
Yep. Yeah, we checked out this one little area where I caught some good quality fish, and it was like this last year. I remember it was really clear, and it's this little back bay with sand, like hardish bottom, where it's like a spawning flat. It's like 3 to 4 feet deep, and you'd have little clumps and patches of hydrilla, and then there's reeds on the reeds, and some isolated lily pads, and it would set up in theory like a perfect spawning flat, but the problem was they had
black scum everywhere.
It had a
black
weird
death.
Yeah, it had a weird black scum on the bottom, which right away just like me and Dalton's like, dude, this is not right. No big bass are gonna be living in this black scum, and I'm like, I agree. Like there's not much we could do. So what did we do? We
pulled out because right when the way we ran in, I had my 2D going, and I can run my 2D at like 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So we saw that there was a hole where it was topped out, and then nothing. Like there was no grass at all.
Yeah.
And then it topped out again closer to the Kissimmee grass. So we're like, let's just go explore that real quick. And I think we caught like nine keepers, and a keeper in Florida is 12 inches. So we're like, well, this is awesome. Man, there's giants loaded on this spot. Then we kept on going. Then we found a spot where the cabbage started.
Yep.
And then mixed in with hydrilla, and the hydrilla wasn't topped out. And then we caught a few 2-pounders.
Yeah.
And we're like, just working around the area, not in one spot. I know Coach Bill might listen to this. He's like, you guys wrecked at school. You should have never wrecked at school in practice. He was scolding us. And before the tournament even started, that he wasn't scolding us, but he was just complaining about how people wreck schools in practice. And we're like, all right, there's a few 2-pounders here. Let's leave it. Let's go find something better where there's maybe bigger fish, because we don't. 2-pounders isn't going to do anything for us at this tournament. So we left that, and then we fished around for a while and just couldn't find anything that felt right for a while.
Yeah, and the thing is we're like, all right, we caught some fish on the east side of Toho in some of that clumps of grass, and you're able to live scope the clumps, and you see clumps, and then you see a fish sitting on the outside. And we were like, all right, let's take this. Like, we finally are able to like that little section Dalton and I caught, I don't know, I'd say maybe like 4 to 6 fish. And like maybe
something like that.
And like a 2 football field sort of hydrilla flat. So we were like, all right, let's kind of take that knowledge, and let's go run with it a little bit. Let's like try to create a little pattern. And it's just like every spot we pulled up to was just like either it's too much hydrilla, or either there's just not a living thing around the hydrilla. And it's just like we're starting to like get a little confused. Confused and a little frustrated. It's just like to us it didn't feel like there was a lot of fishable water, which made it kind of frustrating, because it's like, man, like, you know, you don't have that much time, and you're like, I gotta like figure something out. And then so we went and flipped around a little bit, did some more offshore stuff with hydrilla, and then finally Dalton's like, you know what? One thing that we haven't really been able to find is some hard bottom spots. So right away we started looking at the map, and Paradise Island, I believe it's called. Yep. There's a pinch point, and it's
with a deep hole.
Deep hole, and it's the biggest community hole,
right?
Probably I'd say on Toho.
100%. There's 20 boats sitting there day one.
Yep. So like practice, we like, all right, so we see like a whole congregation of people right up on that red post. So we're like, let's just stay like 100 yards off of it and just start like scanning around. Mm-hmm. And like I was eating lunch, and we're just kind of like side imaging.
And I'm like, oh, there's a couple fish over here. There's a couple fish over here. There was no big school dinged up when I was doing that, but there was like three or four. Then, there's 5 or 6. And there's a few brush piles.
Yeah.
There's one brush pile. There's 2 brush piles. I'm like, well, we got to at least drop the live scope and look at it. Yeah. And I dropped the live scope and I threw my free rig.
Not even 10 minutes.
Yeah, not even 10 minutes. I threw my free rig at a couple fish and they just kept nosing down to it. And I'm like, all right, they're not biting it. What the heck's going on? I'm like, these sure look like bass. They're acting like bass. They're swimming like bass. Yeah, what's going on? And I just let it freaking sit there for, I don't know, a while. I read a chapter out of, I don't even know the biggest book in the world, but we'll figure it out. Like, I read a chapter out of that book. I let it sit there, and I feel thunk, and I cracked him. I was like, I just got to see. And it was like, what, maybe 4-pounder?
A 4-pounder.
Yeah, okay. And we're like, cool. And he had some buds with him. The whole time I was reeling them in, there's like 3 or 4 of them just following him around. So we're like, cool. There's have a little bit of a schooling mentality here. It's hard bottom, it's offshore, and it's away from the crowd. A little bit.
A little bit. Like, you can...
It's by the crowd, but we're not casting in other people's boat.
Pretty much. And, yeah, there's, like, just, like, a whole... just a pile of people, and we were sitting probably like 150 yards off it. Dalton catches the 4-pounder. We kept it really down low, didn't really let him jump, and once he got in the boat, I snapped a quick picture, threw him back.
No, that was awesome. The first time I cracked him, he came skyrocketing out of the water. Everyone hears it. I just turn and look at other boats. Everyone's just staring at us. I'm like, oh, crap. I can't believe that just happened. We just played it off like we lost him or something for a little bit.
Yep. Dalton, like, sat down at the driver's seat, starts, like, messing with his, like, graph. Even though the fish is, like, fighting, he's, like, messing with his graph. And then, like, right as soon as the fish comes up to the boat, he, like, pops it out, like, points it right at me. I snap a quick picture, and he drops it, like, super quick. And right after that, we were like, all right, like, finally we caught, like, a bass, like, that's of size.
Yep.
So then, I think that same... brush pile, I casted my Carolina rig, and I'm like, cast it, I'm dragging, donk, donk, and then I, like, went to go, like, sweep hook set, and there's just, like, really nothing there, but, like, there's a difference. Good sign. Yeah, there's, like, a difference between, like, dragging your Carolina rig and just feeling the tap, 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 or, like, your Carolina rig getting hung up on something, and then just, like, that, that's a bite from a fish. So I felt those 2 bites, went for the sweep hook set, nothing there. And I'm like, all right, well, at least, like, something, like, licked my bait, you know?
Right.
So then we kind of, like, putzed around the whole, like, area for another, like, 20, 30 minutes. And we're seeing brush piles and we're seeing fish, but we don't really want to, like...
You casted your Scottsboro at one.
Yeah.
And we saw, like, 2 Mamba Jambas come
screaming out of the brush pile.
So we're like, all right, let's not do it. That was our cue to, like, all right, there's good fish in the area. Let's leave it and let's go find some more. Let's go find something else just like this with some big fish.
Yeah.
And we struggled to do that.
We struggled pretty freaking hard. It was, I mean, I don't know. It was just with the cold, the rain, and then just, like, not really just making the right adjustments, I think, is what kind of killed us looking back at the tournament.
I know. I feel like I know exactly where we went wrong, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But
so pretty much that's kind of a wrap on day 2 of the practice and practice in general. We really just didn't have much going, but we just knew that, like,
we had stuff to rock with. We knew.
Yeah, we had some hydrilla, some offshore spots, and then we had that hard bottom spot, and we were like, all right. Like, we can definitely, like, if we get a little bit lucky, but also, like, you know, you can't just get lucky. You have to set yourself up. So, you know, we took care of everything that we could take care of and control the controllables.
Right.
And that was about it. And so day 1 of the national championship got canceled due to, like, 50-mile-an-hour winds with, like, that, like, 50-mile-an-hour gusts and, like, 25 to 35 consistent, I believe.
It was out of the south, too, so, like, Toho would have been a mess.
I mean, yeah, and, like, looking on a map, if you look at a map of, like, Toho or, like, Kissimmee, you're like, that lake doesn't look that big. Oh, boy, do those lakes get rough. And they get bumpy pretty quick. Yeah, they get bumpy pretty quick, so.
Yep.
Day 1 gets canceled. Me, Dalton, and Bill just went and pond hopped around the Orlando area, hit a Bass Pro, and just kind of took it took a nice day off, and looking back right away, which was like kind of funky, is like we hit like how many ponds? Like 30 pounds.
We hit so many.
Like 25, 30 pounds, and like
sucked.
They all sucked, and it's just like these ponds look gas, like dummy gas, and it's just like we're not really able to catch like fish in a pond right away. That's like
on a wacky worm.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's not like we're throwing like I don't know 10-inch spoons and I don't know 10-inch swim baits and stuff. We're trying to like just throw wacky worms and go catch some 2-pounders.
Yeah, and things were just not right, and I don't know.
Pond fishing almost clued us into how tough it was gonna be.
Yeah,
almost like. But what do we do after the pond fishing? We came back a little bit, not a little bit early, but not late.
Yep.
And we sat down, and this is where I think it's not where it hit the fan, but this is where I think we started to drift off and go the wrong path. Was when we sat down, we're like, all right, we're watching all these guys on Toho catch, like from previous videos, not like college kids. I'm not trying to copy anyone or anything like that, but we were watching these videos, and everyone's dragging a worm. Mm-hmm. Like super slow. We're like, okay, like we'll do that. Like, I mean, and we got a lot of bites doing it in practice too. We're like, so in our areas where we're catching these fish, let's just slow down. Like it's cold. These fish are in a funk. Let's slow down and let's grind it out. Is what our plan was, and I think that's where we went wrong. And I'll get into that after day 2 and stuff. But so that was our game plan. We went to the Bass Pro. We got some of the right worms that we wanted. Mm-hmm. And we rigged them up, and we were feeling good. Like, I was feeling good. You were feeling good. Like, I've never felt I wasn't confident at any point in time. I was confident that anything can happen in any spot we pull up to, and we can make something out of nothing I shouldn't say nothing, but out of not the practice we wanted. Yeah. In my opinion, I totally felt like we could do that.
And out of all the places, it's the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes. Like,
it's Florida. It's anywhere in Florida.
Yeah. You can literally just roll up and boom, 8-9 pounder. And you're
exactly.
Like, I caught 18 pounds today.
I genuinely think in most Florida lakes that there's more 8-pounders in there that we even will ever realize. Yeah. Like, and I just think they're so smart that you don't see the number that's actually in there. Mm-hmm. And we rolled out day 1, and we were like, let's start on our offshore spot because there was a lot of boats there. We're boat 34. Let's stop on this spot. We're good boat number for it. We knew we were running to Kissimmee, so it's not like we had to go get in line for the lock. Let's start on the spot. And
then here, let me explain this part, because Dalton's driving the boat, so like he's just looking at like what's in front of him, like any boat driver should, just pay attention to what's in front of him. So, and then Bill's sitting in shotgun because we signed some paperwork to allow Bill to film for us for the national championship. So after we signed the paperwork and whatnot, he was sitting in shotgun. I was just sitting kind of on the front deck, looking back. And, Dalton goes from like going 60-something, rooster tail, like 15 feet in the air, like kicking up so much water. Then Dalton starts to put down. Obviously, the rooster tail goes away, and he puts down. Like, it wasn't just like going and then just slam it down. Like he went from like 60 to 50 to 40. He slowed down like plenty ahead because he didn't want to blow up those brush piles and really land on top of them.
And you don't just want to swamp the back of your boat too.
So like he put down like slower than most people would at that time. And I'm like looking back the whole time, and I just see this boat 300-400 yards away. I shit you not. 300-400 yards away, and they're just going. And I'm like starting to get a little antsy because I'm like, when is this guy gonna kind of start turning at least a little bit away so that I can like not stare at that boat? And he's just like keeps coming and coming and coming, and I'm start getting.
Hang on, I see the look on his face, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? Is like my motor on fire or something? Like I thought something was wrong with the boat. I did not know there was a boat back there,
and then I'm like starting to get real antsy, and this boat just keeps getting closer and closer, and then I start freaking out. I'm ready to jump in the water, and this boat, when I shit you not,
this was the craziest thing.
Like power poles, the motor's in the middle. Like, this boat turned away like this close.
It's all on video.
It's all on video.
All on video.
Like, our coach has it, and he doesn't want to release it because if the school finds out and realize how dangerous college fishing is, they don't
live action.
Yeah, they don't want to see it in live action. He gave us that whole spiel, but at least I'm allowed to talk about it. Like, this close, I shit you not, to killing us. 100%, if that boat made collision with us, out of us three and the two kids in that other boat, at least one or two people were dying. 100%. Like, yep. A bass boat coming at you, you're fully stopped, and drives over top of your boat, going 65 plus miles an hour. Someone's dying. Someone's getting his head chopped off. Someone's getting crushed, and it would have just been a horrific tragedy. So, I mean, I really want to give God all the glory. Right, thank the Lord for keeping us safe. Like, after that happened, like, we were like, holy fuck. Like, the whole boat got soaked.
Oh,
Dalton
no,
was
that
drenched.
His wave landed on me. I have no rain gear on whatsoever, which is the dumbest mistake of my life. And I'm freezing.
We got, like, swamped. Bilge starts kicking in. We're like we were shaking up.
I'm standing on my life scope. My foot isn't even, like, capable. I saw my life within that. I
really want to get it, like, through people's head. Like,
it was not a foot. Like, this guy did not miss
close.
myself by a foot.
It was truly this close to, like, death. Like, it really was.
And I've never had an experience like that ever in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm shaken up. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should not be alive. And all I can do is just thank the good Lord above for keeping us safe. And
on the water.
I mean, even those kids safe. It's like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day if those kids were what they were doing, but just everyone's safe, and that's what matters. And I was shaken up for a while, and I'm like, and every time, we were boat 34, so there's 100 more boats trying to drive through here. I keep hearing, wah,
and we just like turn.
I can't even look at my life scope or anything. I'm just like, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me the whole time. And no one ever came close at all. Yeah. But
and this is also just like a PSA to anybody. Anybody.
Kid,
it just, if you drive a boat, period. First of all, like, I see a lot of people, and especially in the summer, like, drinking and then driving around on their ski boats and stuff. Just
pay attention.
Just pay attention, and just, like, try not to just do dumb stuff behind the wheel of a boat.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
A boat is like, people don't really comprehend that how dangerous can a boating accident really, really be.
And
so
every time there is one, unfortunately, death is usually
a common
involved.
Occurrence. Yeah. So just please pay attention. Look in front of you when you're running, and just make good judgment.
Yep. Don't play stupid games, because, I mean,
yeah,
you're gonna win stupid prizes. I know I just said it, but it truly is a safety matter on the water. Not to be that guy, but
yeah. And then, so, like, pretty much spot one, first hour of the tournament, just toast. Like, we're shaking up. We're like, what the hell? So then we're like, all right, let's run to our offshore hydrilla, like, where there's nobody gonna run us over. And so we start fishing it, and we caught, like, one or two, and we're just putzing around, like.
No, that was my favorite fish catch of the... No, it might have been the second favorite fish catch of the week, when I was dragging that worm, and it goes, thunk, and I'm like, oh, there she is. That's the bite we were wanting for, because we were watching these guys catch, like, 8 to 10 pounders the night before, dragging a worm. I'm like, here we go. And it was like a 0.7 pounder. It wasn't even a pound. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I swear, you set the hook on those fish, and they feel giant for, like...
a split second. There's a split second there where you're like, oh, here we go, it's time, and then you look at it and you're like, it's not time.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, day one just kind of like,
it started, I don't know, we knew it was not going to be easy.
Yeah.
But it was also, what the heck's going on at the same time? So
yeah, I don't know, day one, just there's a fine line between just, like, and especially in Florida, is like going and checking up on some of your fish and checking up on some of your areas. And then there's just a fine line where it's just like, dude, you got to also just like break down some new water. And like in our heads, the whole drive down to Florida, we had like 18, 19-hour drive down to Florida. And like every night we're like watching Toho videos and like Florida videos. And it's just like trying to engrave in our head, like we need to be able to bounce around and really focus. And we kind of really didn't like do that. Like
we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But we fished around day 1, and it's kind of sucked. But we only bounced 2 spots, and this is where it really went wrong. And I guess we can get into it now. Every time I've been to Florida, I think what was this? This was my 4th time ever to Florida, and each time where I found grass fish, and it's never been you just show up and they're biting or whatever. There's a timing deal there.
Yeah.
It's a lot with a timing deal. Now, you don't know the window. It just happens. It's like you can't just, it's noon, they're going to bite. That doesn't happen. You just got to keep kind of running spots, and that's what I think where we went wrong is we just wanted to grind it out in like 2 or 3 areas instead of boom, 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 trying to hit that timing window. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where everything just went south. Yep. I shouldn't say south. Nothing really went wrong. But that's what also didn't give us the finish that we were wanting. What happened when we did start bouncing around on day 2 was we started bouncing around. And we hit one spot, boom, boom, boom. They're going crazy in the grass. Yeah. Going crazy. And I don't know how many fish we caught. We called once or twice. Yeah. Bounced around again, boom, 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 boom. Great. And then that was the end of the tournament.
Yeah, I'd say
we're like, oh my gosh. We should have been doing this whole time.
Yeah. But with, like, day 1 of the tournament, like, the stuff that we saw on LiveScope, like, we're not, like, the Ben Millikens or whatever, but, like, I feel like both Dalton and I know kind of relatively, we can pick apart, like, what a gar is, what a carp is.
Yeah, I've spent so much time behind that screen like, for the past what 3 or 4 years.
So when we're looking at these fish, we're like,
they're definitely bass.
This is definitely a bass. All right, and the way they're acting, the way the size comparison, the way they're just like, the way you can kind of see their tails and that gap between it, it's like, all right, that is a very large bass. And I don't want to be that guy, but like I can guarantee at least 50 plus boats in the tournament could say, we had at least 20 to 25 pounds of fish chase our glide baits, jerk baits, our worms, nose down on them, bump our glide baits, and it's just like it
wasn't the timing deal.
It wasn't the timing deal, and so like
that was where.
Also, seeing those fish, kind of just like me and Dalton, they were like, dude, the potential in this hard bottom spot is like crazy. So we're like, let's just like. Man, like if we get 1 bite an hour, it's fine because they're like giants. Yep. So that's kind of where we got lost. Day 1, we ended up with like 10-6. Not the finish we wanted. Not at all.
Not the position you want to be put in after day 1 either. So
we kind of got the short end of the stick. Our faults. Yep. So going into day 2, we thought we had a better idea of kind of what we needed to do. So. Yeah, we literally started off on the grass spot where we kind of caught them, and we started fishing them. And then we're like, all right, we got like 2 or 3 fish in the box, and it's kind of starting to die. Let's run some new stuff. So we go and run and check up on a little area where
there's a hole in the grass. I think it was the second spot.
Another hole in the grass. Same type of deal as the first spot.
Yep.
Hydrilla. We're able to live scope some fish.
Caught like 1 more, I think, there.
Yeah, caught 1 more. And
then we went to the hard bottom spot to see if we can hit that at the right time, I think.
Remember we went and flipped a little bit?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we were like, all right, let's just mix this day around a little bit. Like, we wanted to fish that hydrilla spot, and then we were like, let's go up. Let's go flip. Like, let's just like flip and punch for like 30 to an hour. We did that for like 30 minutes to an hour. I'd probably say less than that, an hour.
It's probably like 30 to 45, somewhere in there. I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere in there. And
yeah,
just sadness. Lots of sadness. So we're like, let's go check up on the hard bottom spot. We fished it for like an hour. You got bumped by like, a mega.
Yeah. this fish, I've live scoped a few 6-pounders on a glide bait. This fish was bigger than any one of those. But there's nothing we can do about it. It's just fishing. It's going to happen. It's not I guess it probably was like the first time I ever like did that and saw it all happen, but I know it's not going to be the last. Especially, I mean, this year even, it's not going to be the last time I see a giant fish come up and not eat my glide bait, and just got to shake that one off and just keep fishing almost is all you can do. Yeah. And we're watching them. What you were throwing?
I got smoked
on the hangover. Yeah. And then I was like, Dylan, these fish are just really picky. Put on that Kitech, and then you get smoked on that 3.8 Kitech a few times.
They were just licking it. They were just.
And the next clue that just gave to me is like, all right, there's no better way to, in my opinion, to force feed these fish other than a drop shot. And what I do, I went and tied on a drop shot, and I started casting around at these fish, and they just kept nosing down on it and not doing anything with it. And we're like, it's time to go. Yeah, it's time to go. So, like if we can't get a 2-pounder here to buy a drop shot, we're never going to get a 5-pounder here to eat anything. Yeah, is the thing. So
and the thing that I'd say that was like a plus from day 1 to day 2. Day 1 we spent like 3 to 4 hours on that hard bottom spot. Mm-hmm. Day 2 we fished it for about an hour. Maybe pushing an hour and a half, but I'm pretty sure just about an hour. Mm-hmm. And right away, me and Dalton are like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just leave the spot entirely. Let's just run new stuff. And that was like a plus. So we ended up running some brand new hydrilla spots, and it paid off.
Exactly, but that goes back to what I was saying, where we started hopping these spots. It was when, we started finding this timing deal where it's like, we showed up, wasn't really happening. Then all of a sudden, here's this one. Schooling. There's a one grass patch where they started going, and then it died off, and we stayed. I think we overstayed our welcome by like 20 minutes, I should say. Yep. And then we ran to another spot, and it sucked. Yep. And then we ran to another spot, boom, boom. And we're like, oh my gosh. In my head, I'm like, that's where the tournament just went right there. Yeah. Like we should have been doing that the whole entire time because. Yes, we never caught a big one doing it. We never did. Yep. But you can't, 100% you can't convince me that we wouldn't have got randomly a 5-pounder to bite throughout the day. 100% in one of those schools that we would have come across, we should have caught a 5-pounder, I should say. Then, we still have 4 more hours of the tournament. Let's just keep doing this. Oh, there's another 4. And I think that's where the tournament went down the drain. It was right there when we realized exactly what we did wrong, and all you can do is put it behind you and take that knowledge and put it into the next one. So pretty much the only thing I'd probably recap on just the Kissimmee Chain is it's just the biggest thing is, and especially if someone's listening to this right now and they're planning on going there sometime soon, sometime in February or March, whatever. Just know it's Florida, and you just got to just get it through your head. Just bounce around and just be very open-minded to fishing just new stuff, new areas, and even if it doesn't look quite right, just fish it. Because that one area where we caught those schooling, like it wasn't exactly what we've been looking for all week, but we were like, let's just fish it. It was just random patches of hydrilla and then nothing, and a random patch of hydrilla.
And the difference was is some of these patches were topped out as opposed to some of our sections of the lake where we were fishing were all submerged. So we decided to be a little bit more open-minded day 2 in like the last 2-3 hours of the tournament, and it paid off. Like not necessarily weight-wise, or you can look at the leaderboard and be like they did good. It's more of just like morally for me and Dalton. It's just like it paid off in our heads. Like all right, we learned, and that's the biggest thing. Is you just one piece of the puzzle, and you just got to keep learning. It's a really freaking big puzzle, and you're never gonna finish it. But you try to get as much of it completed as possible. Right. Yeah. So I'd say that was the biggest thing. And then, tournament wrap, we ended up finishing technically 63rd, but 2 teams got disqualified, so 61st.
Yep. Congratulations to Braylon and Lucas for winning it, too. They took the trophy back to Michigan. Unfortunately, the wrong school, in my opinion, but I'm just playing, guys. Good job. It was a good win. Big win. They came back from 10th place, I'm pretty sure, and
10th or 11th, because they're the 10th and 11th team were tied.
10th. Yep. So that was a big win for them. That's awesome, and they're our age, so I think they got a bright future out of them for sure.
the Northern boys showed out. So
yep, for sure.
Yeah, and then so now, I mean, we're recording this podcast, and we are leaving tomorrow night for Lake Murray.
The St. Clair of Largemouth, in my opinion.
Supposedly. So, I've never been to Murray.
Neither have I.
Dalton's never been to Murray. So, thoughts and expectations? I'm just...
Be open-minded.
Yeah, be open-minded.
That's the thoughts on that one. Just be open-minded, and I guess the other thought is team of the year. I mean, don't want to... piss down our legs on this one, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially, like, when you have, like, 3 tournaments that you have to, like, really excel in. It's just, the biggest thing is going in this tournament is just having, like, a really strong mindset, not letting little things, knock us down.
Yep.
And then just flow. Let's just flow. And I don't think there's going to be one technique or one thing that we're just going to be going into the tournament like that's going to be the key. The biggest thing is just we're just going to figure it out, and we're going to let the conditions and we're going to let Lake Murray decide what the hell are we going to do and how we're going to catch these fish. So,
and they're going to be on a big warming trend because, like, today, I think the low was, like, 16. And then Friday when tournament starts, I think the low is, like, 62.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a big warming trend. So these fish are – I think it's going to make them chew more than not chew. But we don't know. We've never been. And we're just going to let the day take its course, and hopefully we're bringing 30 pounds back to the ramp. That's the goal.
That's always the goal. Yeah. One derb at a time, Lake Murray. Next Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, we're dropping day 2 of the national championship. So for viewers, they're able to watch that. And that's
where you'll see things start to go right, is that
day 2.
Towards the end of the video, you'll be like, oh my gosh, they went from catching 1 fish an hour to 15 fish an hour or something like that. Like, it got kind of retarded, that one. I don't know about 15.
Yeah, I don't know about 15, but like, we're just catching more fish. It's going to be more enjoyable to watch. And you're also just going to see like a base little rundown. Like, you're not going to win tournaments like that, not necessarily exactly that way, but it can be won that way.
It can lead you into the direction of what you need to do to win a tournament too, or at least on the Kissimmee Chain. Like, maybe not spots or baits, but just the mentality side of things. And I don't want to say the basics, but oh man, they started trying instead of grinding it out. They went and found wherever the time was, almost like So
yeah, and absolutely,
it'll be a good video.
And next Sunday, so tournament is Friday, Saturday. Hopefully, we release a little recap on Lake Murray, possibly Sunday or Monday. Most likely it'll be Monday because Sunday we'll be traveling, and 12-some hour drive.
We can probably record it Saturday night too. Yeah, after the tournament. Yep.
We'll play it by ear, but we really appreciate everyone watching and the support on the channel. Everyone has reached out to Dalton and I on how they've been waiting for podcast number 3 to come out, and
it's been a while.
It's been a while. But the biggest thing
as you can see, we were waiting for this guy right here, the mic, the proper equipment, and now we have a little bit of a backdrop instead of a whiteboard in the school's library. So we have a little bit better.
We were thinking about filming more podcasts right after we filmed those 2, but then like we just thought let's try to progress instead of just kind of riding that same level. Like, we want to make sure that, like, moving forward, we're trying to put out some of the best content that we possibly can. So
it was just more of a toe dip.
Yep.
Like, we didn't even know if anyone would listen. Like, these 2 dumb kids from Michigan talking about their fishing adventures where they get 60th place in a tournament. Like, no one wants to really listen to that. But no, seriously, the support of the channel's been very, very helpful and appreciated, because it helps give us ideas and to do this, and motivation to do this, and doing this can help us reach our end goal at the end of the day. So we truly do appreciate all of you guys who reach out, listen, and want us to succeed and push us every day to do it. So thank you guys.
And with that being said, we really appreciate everyone that's watching The Angler's Den on YouTube and Spotify. Take care, everyone.
Yep, we'll see you.